Well, hello. I'm Philip Taylor, and I'm involved with the book section at Gorringe, along with my colleagues David Dawson and our great new addition who deals with early manuscripts, Christopher Whittick. On the 18th of December, we have another of our quarterly, they seem to be nowadays, quarterly book sales, and this one is a very typical eclectic mix of books from clients all over the southeast of England. In particular, I've selected about half a dozen books to talk about, which are a little unusual perhaps. For one client in a village not far from Lewes, we have a collection of about 200 odd Edward Bordon, the graphic artist and illustrator, related books. And I've just selected one of his particularly interesting books. This is his book with McKendrick, all to do with wallpaper. And in the book, there are various pull-outs for designs on wallpaper. You can see there, Samantha. And there's also comes with it a supplement which has got a further 4 designs for his wallpaper. There they are. When I first spotted this book, I was a little alarmed at its condition on the front cover. As you will see, there appears to be some damp stains here, but I should not have worried, because this is exactly as Bordon represented it. Maybe it's in an old cottage, and there are the damp stains that might have been in an old cottage, front and back. And indeed, these are printed on all of the books, and this is one of a rare set of the 40 produced in 19... Little pause there, I think. It was published with David McKendrick in 1989. We have an estimate on this book, I think, of £1,200 to £1,600. But do bear in mind there's at least another 40-50 lots of Bordon-related books in the same sale. Moving on to something very different now. I very much enjoyed cataloguing these books. These are two little manuscript books, and they are the personal recollections of an actor called Leonard Shepherd, and he's writing this in 1939, and he's recounting his activity as a jobbing actor, working all over the country between 1895 and 1910. But it's very legibly written in his own hand, as you can see there, and profusely illustrated throughout with some very, very accomplished watercolours in his own hand. It's a wonderful story about how he goes to America on 4 or 5 occasions and tours America, and in particular how he goes over to the west coast of America and meets a lot of the native Indians at the time. There's a lovely view there of Chinatown in San Francisco. It's a wonderful read, actually. I read the whole thing. It's very modestly priced, may I say, that lot at £200 to £300. And if you buy that, you'll find it a very enjoyable read. A client of ours in Eastbourne has been selling through us the last 3 or 4 years a collection of beautiful works, many illustrated by Rudolph Akan. And I went to see him recently, and he gave me a further collection of books by Akan. This is Akan's famous Microcosm of London, which includes some wonderful plates, colour plates, hand-coloured aquatinted plates. And there's one particularly interesting to us, of course, because there's a view there of Christie's Sailor in London in about 1815. So it's a 3-volume set. This is one of them. It's the original leather binding, but has been rebacked, and that's the set is in at £2,000 to £3,000. Moving on now to something a little nearer to today's date. This is the famous Jane Austen Pride and Prejudice Peacock edition. There we are, illustrated throughout with little line engravings. I think there's 160 of them by Hugh Thompson. This is the famous 1894 edition in this greeny blue cloth, And what's remarkable about this particular book is condition. It's in remarkable condition. It's been very, very slightly bumped top and bottom, but otherwise the binding is extremely good quality and in wonderful condition, as is the text throughout. The only possible downside might be the initial pages, that the title page, which I think is very often the case. You are a little brown there on the frontispiece on the title page. Now these are very, very popular. We have it in at £800 to £1,200, but I suspect that the collectors will very much enjoy the condition of this book, and I expect it will do rather better. We also have a further edition of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, and this one is the Richard Bentley edition of 1833, and this one it's in pretty good shape actually again. And then again a little discoloration on the title page and the front page, but that is very typical for this book at this date. This of course is part of a set of 5 of Richard Bentley productions by Jane Austen. The first printing of Austen's work after her own first editions. So that's in, it's been rebound, but rather well rebound, I think, and that's in at £800 to £1,000. Now, it's an interesting one, this one, only because of what it's lacking. This is James Hilton's Mr. Chips, which of course was turned into a film. It is Mr. Chips, and just commenting on this particular book, it's worth probably £250 to £300, but had it had its original dust jacket, it probably would have made closer to £800 to £1,000. That's a good example of the value of a dust jacket not being present, which is a shame. Now, moving slowly on now to, I think the star of the sale is without doubt this remarkable set of Charles Dickens's Great Expectations. It's a first edition. It's also in that first edition in 1861. The very first print run was around 1,000, was around 1,000 in fact. And pretty well all of that print run was taken up by the travelling library as set up and run by this man, James Moody. And there's James, and he set up these travelling libraries all around the country. There's an example one there. They were very much the place, the go-to place at the time, you know, serving tea and coffee and cakes and the latest books. In this particular case, the Great Expectations would have been very, very sought after indeed. It had previously been serialised in magazine form in the magazine all the year round, but here it is printed in 3 volumes. Now, first edition, first impression. Now, until I think relatively recently, it was assumed that in 1861 there was only 1 print run, but in fact it is now known, the scholars now know there are actually 5 print runs, but by a remarkable piece of detective work and analysing all the words in the book, and there are some 85,000 words in the book, and also analysing each particular letter and comma and hyphen in the book, of which there's some 830,000 to check through. The scholars have decided that the first edition must include certain particular peculiarities, and I've highlighted, there are too many to go through for me to explain that to you today, but I'll just show you one typical example. I've marked it here in volume 1. It's volume 1, and Sam, you'll have to do a little close-up here for me. It's volume 1, page 203, and what we're looking for here is on the 4th line. You'll see between the letters no 1, there's a little smudge of ink there. That smudge of ink there, little faint ink mark, does not appear in the further 4 editions of the book of 1861. And it's those little minuscule defects that pinpoint it, but also confirm it to be the rarity that it is. Now, it is very rare indeed. It doesn't have, unfortunately, its original binding. Many of these, I think, suffered during their times in Moody's travelling libraries. So many of them ended up being rebound. The original binding is a lovely wavy blue lilac cloth binding, but these have been beautifully bound. We don't know who bound it, but we do know that it was come through Charles Sawyer's establishment in London, because Charles Sawyer's has actually stamped it right down the bottom there. Very, very small to see there. And also on each volume, he's also has a little monogram at the back of the book there. So they were not binders. They didn't bind books, a bit like Hatchards and Sutherlands, but they obviously outsourced the binding elsewhere. But it makes a very wonderful set indeed. And we have it priced in at 15 to 20,000. It's a remarkable opportunity to acquire one of the rarest books by Charles Dickens. And here is the great man himself. And upon that, I will leave you to ponder. Our sale is on Monday, the 18th of December, and will have been on view on the previous Friday and Saturday morning. I hope to see you there.